Hello and welcome to the very first episode of The Hot Seat.
Hey Raven, no one knows what the hot seat is. You're fucking explaining, you dumb bitch.
What's the hot seat, you might ask? Well, a couple weeks ago I asked you guys to give me all your unpopular opinions and hot takes about gaming, about Twitch, about streaming, about whatever. And I'm going to go through all those submissions and I'm going to respond to them today. So, you're effectively putting me in the hot seat. Let's go. Death Stranding is an overrated game despite its creator. Its story is hard to follow, its themes are meta only for the sake of being meta and different. Its terminology is pseudoscientific to the point of being nonsensical and incoherent. Its gameplay is limited to a series of unfulfilling tasks, and it's overall just an unpleasant game. Well, I would say most of this comes down to opinion, whether or not you played it and you didn't enjoy it, or whether you couldn't really get into it. That's really all up to you and how you interpreted the game. In terms of being meta and different, I'm not sure what you mean. It definitely was a very unique game, and the gameplay experience definitely was not like anything that was available at the time, especially from Kojima. A lot of people did compare it to Metal Gear Solid 5, which in the long run didn't really make it a classic like the rest of the Metal Gear Solid series. But I will say that Death Stranding is, in itself, is a very unique experience. And if you're just not into it, you're just not into it. Gameplay itself may feel like menial tasks, like delivering certain items and even pizza from time to time. But every step, the game makes it feel heavy, like your choices matter. Every step you take is important. And I think a lot of people who have an appreciation for detail in gameplay and choice in gameplay really dug it. Transformers are not horrible, or at least not as bad as everyone makes them out to be. Are they perfect? No, but they are still enjoyable and fun to watch. Hey, why not? I mean, the franchise is, 4 decades old now? As long as we're not talking about that garbage Michael Bay produced, because, I mean, even John Cena and Megan Fox's weird thumb couldn't save that series. I would say there's plenty of enjoyment to get out of the Transformers series, especially it being, it's a cult classic, for sure. And who doesn't like the idea of robots in disguise? Games like Breath of the Wild 2, Horizon Forbidden West, and Cyberpunk should have been held back and developed exclusively for next gen. Breath of the Wild had performance issues as a result of being developed for Wii U and Switch. Example, tanking FPS in the Lost Woods. And the same will be true for those games. However good they turn out to be, being cross-gen is always a limiting factor in terms of performance, graphics, and the scope of the games. Well, you gotta think about deadlines that companies get put under. And they have to release these games by a certain deadline, by the contract that they signed with console developers and whatnot. So it's really more of a factor of that. I don't think anybody wants to release a game that's not finished or unpolished or that runs like shit. Oh shit, here comes some spicy ones. After rewatching them in a short time frame, the Star Wars prequel trilogy wasn't as bad as I remember, and the originals not nearly as good as my nostalgia makes me think they were. Overall, with the potential they have and what they end up delivering, I find it to be an overrated franchise. I don't think the original movies have anything to do with it being overrated. I think merchandising has caused the series to become much more overrated than a lot of people think, especially fans of the series. From an outside lens, though, I would say you're not really that big of a Star Wars fan. Also, did you just compare the prequels to the originals? Fuck's wrong with you? Although I will say, the prequels gave us some good memes. Wait, what? A Perfect Circle is a better band than Tool. Well, believe it or not, the music for A Perfect Circle is written by all one guy, Billy Howardell. So it's kind of a one-man band when you think about the creative process for A Perfect Circle. Now, Tool, it's a 4-man band, and they all take their own part in the creative process. So I would say A Perfect Circle is not very comparable to Tool as a band, whereas in A Perfect Circle is more of just a musician's project with big names at the head like Billy Howardell and Maynard James Keenan. But I would say most people that are fans of Tool are Perfect Circle fans too, so. Resident Evil Gaiden, oh here we fucking go. The only Resident Evil game on the Game Boy Color. The game does get shit on quite a damn bit by those who know about it. However, it's really a developmental gem which proved to be a challenge that holds true to what Capcom were going for with the series at the time. You know what? No, it wasn't. It was a cash grab. They tried to make money by putting a game on the Game Boy Color, and that's about it. They really didn't put much time or thought into the development of the game. As you could see, the idea was copy-pasted in future games many times. And honestly, the story doesn't really make any sense. The characters are just thrown in haphazardly. The gameplay is terrible, which all you're doing is you're trying to line up a little line to line up the different with the line in the middle, and you have to wait slowly while the enemies get closer to you, and it's just overall an unenjoyable, unintelligible mess of a game. People who have only played Final Fantasy VII Remake and really enjoyed it do not have to play the original. And people who might actually enjoy the remake better than the original doesn't make them any lesser fans of the series. People get into gaming and game series at different times and at different stages in their life. This is very true, and I actually agree with this for the most part. Gatekeeping in a fandom is never a good idea, and it just pushes people out, and it just makes it toxic. But I will say, a lot of people aren't just trying to gatekeep when they suggest you play the original of a remake. Sometimes experiencing something new means playing something old, and you never know, you may like the original better. Yes, meet my friend the Devil, I am his advocate. Resident Evil 1 Remake is overrated. No. PT is just a glorified demo and gets way too much praise. It also instigated a boring horror walking sim genre. You guys with your opinions and things, and it's almost like I asked for them. I did, didn't I? Fuck. I would say PT had an impact on the genre and on games in general way bigger than people give it credit for. I mean, you wouldn't have games like RE7, the new Resident Evil Village. You wouldn't have many of the modern first-person horror games without it. Although I will say the real granddaddy of all first-person horror games is Frictional Games' Amnesia: The Dark Descent. It had an impact on the genre bigger than any first-person horror game. But Raven, what about Penumbra? Shut the fuck up. No one cares about Penumbra, okay? Social media made y'all way too comfortable with disrespecting people and not getting punched in the face for it. Did Mike Tyson really say that? He needs to be careful. He's gonna go to prison again. Mike, please don't punch anybody, and if you do, make sure it's in the ring and you're getting paid millions of dollars for it. Thanks. This kind of goes back into something that was already said. Classic Resident Evil is outdated, and fans of the originals gatekeep so hard that there will never be a new game with fixed camera angles in the series ever again. I don't think the fact that they're gatekeeping has anything to do with why there's not going to be fixed camera angles and pre-rendered backgrounds. But a lot of people that do say things like pre-rendered backgrounds and fixed camera angles make Resident Evil, it's just not true. Those things were more a sign of the time and the technology at the time. Resident Evil has existed and thrived without those things for over 10 years now. While maybe fans of the classic games may enjoy the originals more and say they're more Resident Evil, that's just their opinion. Technology is making the human race lazy, socially awkward, antisocial, and unintelligent. COVID aside, everywhere you see people constantly staring down at their phones instead of engaging in light conversation with, say, the person stood next to them in a queue. I bade an elderly couple a cheery good morning, and they both stared at me and quickened their step as they passed by, because people just don't do that small social interaction anymore nowadays. Sat-navs and cars that park themselves are not giving motorists the road use experience they should have to be competent on the road. The internet is taking away libraries, and just Googling it is making people lazy and not actually make an effort to use their brains to remember facts and figures. Future generations will ultimately lose the ability to learn, retain information, and interact with each other in a civil manner, as they won't know how to. The human race is degenerating into a social inept zombie race ruled by technology and increasingly autonomous AI. Now this sounds like a really cool back of a book teaser for some terrible dystopian future. But over your overall point, I mean, to some extent, maybe I might agree with you. But overall, in history, technology has only made our lives better, and as long as we're not destroying the environment. In terms of our environmental impact, I would definitely say technology is harming us, but To say things like, oh, it's taking away from our life experience or it's making us socially inept, we were already socially inept. We were already lazy. Technology doesn't really affect any of that. If anything, technology makes it easier for us to interact with each other and to develop social ties and networks. I think you shouldn't be so scared of technology, okay? I mean, unless Skynet comes online soon. Just take us over. Come on. You see the people that are running these countries. Just bring on the robots. Let's go. And that was it for the first episode of The Hot Seat. If you want to get your submission in the next episode of The Hot Seat, then make sure you follow me on Twitter or join my Discord. Links in the description below. Make sure you guys follow me at twitch.tv/Ravenhart so you don't miss any of my live streams. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all back at the nest next time.